All right, so this next one here is we're going to be looking at the costs of sociality, and we're going to stick with kind of the big three, I think, for this one. So what we'll look at is, um, you know, sociality evolves again if there's a higher fitness than living alone, but occasionally there are some costs that you have to take away from the benefits, and if those costs get too great, maybe it's better to be alone. So there's numerous potential costs of living in groups have been identified. We're going to go over three of them. So the first one is increased competition for resources. The more of you there are, now you're fighting for things like food, shelter, mates. Although, like we said earlier, being in a bigger group might help find a mate, but um, too many might make it a bit harder because you're fighting now over the same female. So anyway, let's look at some of the things that might happen here. Um, you may see increased aggression. The first picture up on the left there are prairie dogs, and there's different species of prairie dogs with different size groups that they live in. And what they find is the bigger groups have more aggression toward each other than the smaller groups. We talked about um, dominance hierarchies to kind of minimize some of that stuff. But as your groups get bigger and bigger, you get more um, tension in the group. We see that in people too. And like I said, next week we will look at some of the stuff with people. May increase the number of eggs laid. Burrowing beetles, you see them on the bottom with a dead mouse. And what happens is the mice are pretty big, the beetles are small. Sometimes they will share. We're not quite sure why they do this. But when they do share with another beetle, each beetle itself will lay fewer eggs. And it might just be for the amount of resources that are out there, so that's their only option. It might be harder to fight off the other beetle than it would be to um, just go ahead and let them lay also. Although again, you will lay, and these things will also occasionally not succeed. I guess they do have a higher failure rate. So maybe allowing them to do it, you don't want to put out too much energy. So lots of different factors involved in that. And then may benefit from a combined effort, although it could kill you. So we see over there long-legged web building spider. That is not the daddy long legs that you see in your houses. It's a different species, but similar look to it. And what happens is they'll build a huge nest. Again, that huge nest allows them to catch more insects and things like that. Um, what they find though is that once something gets caught, all the spiders kind of run out there to try to get the food, and it is often the largest spider that kind of wins that war. Some of the small spiders get killed in the fight, but the benefits outweigh the cost here. And so, for protection and for other things, these guys will often do this. And the little guys, especially, could never build a nest um, uh, as good as the group. And so, again, weighing benefit and cost. All right. The other one is increased chance of spreading disease or parasites. We know as we pack people in or any animal in, you increase diseases and the transferring of diseases. So in prairie dog colonies, the higher their groups, the bigger groups, the more disease you see. The fleas that carry bubonic plague, that was a problem in some of the prairie dog colonies, especially when one of the main predators, which was the black-footed ferret, started collapsing. They were dying and being killed by ranchers because of the holes and all kinds of different issues. But when we saw them disappear, we saw an explosion of prairie dogs, and then we saw outbreaks of bubonic plague, and that's what the sign is on the bottom there. Um, is warnings put up when the plague was detected in these. On the right hand side, we have cliff swallows. There's an adult on the bottom, and up on top, what you're looking at is two babies, and they are exactly the same age. And so what you're seeing is the one on the left is found in a nest that has parasites, and the one on the right is not. So these parasites actually suck blood off of these guys and pull energy off. So obviously the ones that are healthier grow bigger, stronger, faster, and have a higher level of survival. Now, protection from the group in a colony from predators is higher if you're in a group. But again, if that group gets too big and the parasites get too many, it could be a problem. All right, and then the last cost would be the interference with reproduction. We've seen this in infanticide in African lions, so I'm not going to really talk about it before again, but we do see that in several species where we interfere with somebody else's reproduction to increase ours. The example I wanted to use is the Mexican jay. They will actually destroy each other's nests. And you can see here a male with nesting material in its beak. They will steal each other's nesting material and actually destroy another male's nest to give them a better chance of finding a mate and breeding on their own. So you can, in the Mexican jays, which have been studied quite a bit by a guy named James Brown, not the singer, spent years of his life studying this certain jay. This is some of the things you find. Increases the chance of cockholdry, which is basically means that you are a male raising somebody else's children that you're not related to. Brood parasitism that we've talked about, or even sexual harassment on other individuals trying to get them not to breed. And so that will end the cost section of this lecture.